Now, I would like to immediately start the discussion session, but I want to put one question to you. So you stay. Still, I would like to request you to stay back.
Yes, sir.
I will tell you one small experience before asking a question. Have you gone to Madikeri near to Mangalore? There is one place called Raja Seat where king used to watch the layers and beauty of the valleys and the hills. He used to go to the evening and see. I also went there. Along with one of our colleagues to the same peak. Okay, we both went in the early morning with a lot of difficulties. When I went to the peak, I could see the beautiful layers and layers of valleys and hills and a lot of clouds coming up from the hills. It was really thrilled to see the wonderful scenery a Mother Nature was showing to me. Then I was just asking my friend, what do you see? The wonderful place we have come. He was telling, I am not seeing anything. Nothing is there. Only useless things are there. Then again told, Arey, you see, sunrise is so nice. It's a wonderful place. That's why those days that Raja has come here and sat there and observed all these hills and valleys. We are fortunate enough to come today. We are able to see. But still my friend was telling, Senthil, what you are crazy fellow? I am not seeing anything. It's all useless, he told. Then you know what happened? Then instead of seeing the valley, I looked at him. Then I found he has kept one of the stone picked from the path. He kept right in front of his eyes. And he is seeing only the stone. And the entire world is obstructed his view. And the poor guy could not see the beautiful scenario in front of him. Then I felt very bad. But still he is my friend, right? I cannot leave him and go. So I advised him, dear, throw the stone. Leave the stone where it's supposed to be. Look at the bigger picture in front of you. So he's my friend. He was right in front of me. But everybody is having two hands, so many stones. If everybody keeps the stones in front of them, they will not be able to see the world in front of them. So when I am saying this, one of the questions raised by somebody in the one corner of this planet here, it was very much matching with my heart. So I really don't know how to take the ATSEP community, which are in a much challenging situation, are so ignorant and not ready to see the real pictures in front of them. Now let me tell the contrary. In contrast to what I told, I was talking about pleasurable situation. Now I am talking about painful situation. They are not worried about the bigger problems. They are very much engaged in small petty things, keeping in right front of their vision, and they lost their vision. For example, human factor study. I would like to put this question in the discussion session. I want to start this way. How do you make the stakeholders, the center element of the cell model, themselves to understand what is important, what is very, very important, and how to, like Sanjeev Singh also told, this study is very, very important. He is also in the standards wing. He is holding a very important post in Nepal. How do you make them to, because as I told, if my friend keeps a stone in front of him, it is my duty to tell him, dear, leave it. Leave, that is not a big issue. See the bigger thing in front of you. So I would like to hear from you because you have handled a lot of training, course development in various aspects. And recently also you handled the COVID situation in a different way. I would like to hear from you. It is not the answer for the participant. It is for me also. How do I get their attention on the major issues so that we will continue this study appropriately? Please, sir.
Okay, I would like to answer this question in a different way. People's preferences are formed over a period of time. Everybody joins an organization with a hope to have adequate and pleasurable learning, experience, and job satisfaction, and to have an excellent career. It is the role of the organization to shape them up. Nobody comes with a preset mind not to see the overall picture, but it is the responsibility of the organization right at the induction stage to groom them and set the tone for their career for spanning maybe around 25 to 30 years. In that sense, the entry point, in our case, probably our civil aviation training college has to open up the eyes of these youngsters to varied and rich opportunities that are there for the taking in the civil aviation arena. If we are not doing that, and if they are conditioned over a period of time to small and narrow domain, then probably they may not be able to see a bigger picture at a later date. It is the role of the organization. And one more thing I want to stress here is that if most of you might have seen Doc 10057, it has depicted different phases of learning for the ATSEP, right from phase 0 to phase 5 or 6, whatever it is. It starts from the selection process.
Yes.
Then it goes into the initial training where we address the basic training and qualification training. Thereafter, we take them through the unit training where he or she gets certified as a proficient or certified engineer in a particular system. Thereafter, the learning continues as a continuous learning and also the developmental learning. Now, if your selection process, if your recruitment process itself is defective, then probably the group of ATSEP who are entering into the organization may not be able to see a better career. For example, I'll tell you, the recruitment process has to be addressed effectively. Probably the Doc 10057 or IFATSEA can highlight the importance of a good recruitment process in order to have competent ATSEP throughout the globe. For example, the recruitment process must be continuous and free-flowing so that the ATSEP can have an appropriate career progression throughout their career. Instead, if I recruit as an organization in fits and starts, if, for example, I recruit 200 engineers in one go, thereafter, I have a lull period of 10 years not to recruit anybody, then this group of 200 people are going to stagnate at some point in their career growth and their learning will be stymied. Also, we are not bringing into the organization the new technological advancements which the youngster. For example, I'll tell you, my daughters are more tech savvy than me, and I learn many things from them. Why so? Because their learning environment is like that. So they bring the new technology not only to home, they will carry the new technology to every organization wherever they are going to join. So in a dynamic environment of civil aviation, we need to have a free and regular recruitment of limited numbers so that the ATSEP can be progressive. And the ATSEP, as I said, needs to be told well at the beginning as to what is the scenario that can unfold in front of them. Also, they have to constantly update to stand up to the dynamism of civil aviation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So now I would like to address this question to all of you. I would like to hear individually your inputs on this. I would like to call Mr. Priyantha first, then Sanjeev Singh, then you. Mr. Priyantha?
Yes, Mr. Senthilvel.
Now I would like to give a small, this panel we have made, one from Sri Lanka, one from Nepal, one from India. If you see your working environment from Sri Lanka is totally different with Nepal. As Sanjeev Singh told, Nepal has got the typical structures of the airport. It's very not easy to reach those airports. If you take Sri Lanka, it's a very small island. I think it is small as Tamil Nadu. If you take India, it's a very big country. So we have different challenges, isn't it? So
Yes.
at one point of time, we may feel that Sri Lanka is better. Sometime we may feel Nepal is better. Sometime we feel India is better. I was just thinking on your shoes and Sanjeev's shoes. Say, for example, radar. I think Sri Lanka is having totally very few radars, maybe 1 or 2 radars only.
Yeah, 2 radars.
Yes, 2 radars. But in India, we have plenty of radars. Even in one airport, we are having three radars. So what is, I was just thinking from your shoe, in your shoe means your ATSEP shoe. Suppose a few people, those who are looking after those highly complicated equipment, they had some problem. They have very limited people to whom they can contact or get some help over phone or over WhatsApp. In India, what happens? We are having lot of assets, lot of colleagues are having lot of talents. So what, even if you take my case also, I am also looking after radar of Bangalore International Airport. If anything happens or some ambiguity comes, I never hesitate. I will call some of my colleagues in some other airport. He will solve my problem. How do you face this issue? This is number one from your angle. So similarly, Sanjeev Singh also can correlate the similar issue for navigation lights in a critical runway, which is very difficult to meet a sighting criteria. Similarly, I want to address to Mr. Muruganandam. I think he is holding one of the biggest automation system in the Asian countries. So how do you people, all of you in the different environment, how do you create the working environments where the people are having the knowledge and the experience required and they feel that somebody is there behind them to support? So I would like to start from you, Mr. Priyantha.
Thank you, Mr. Senthilvel, for the opportunity. Again, the thing is that though we are a small country, so accordingly we have 2 radar, one from one covering the whole FIR, almost entire FIR, the other one for approach. Basically, as you said, the contactability of the resources personnel is not much big issue for us as far as communication system is very efficient. I mean, the service providers are always keep in touch with them, and the people, the ATSEPs are having better technologies nowadays than earlier, so that there's not a big issue. So when we touch the resources personnel, the point of view that we have different categories of ATSEP levels. So actually we have 7 sections that is located around the island. So there are specific ATSEPs trained for specific equipment, so that we have network to communicate with each other, and we can get their support. Even the people who retired are always willing to support us, because they live their life that industry. So we have enough resources with compared to the systems and the environment we are having. So that is the situation here in Sri Lanka.
Thank you. So you mean to say that since the relatively that number of systems also very much less, so the resources are appropriately you are already having to meet the
Yeah. When you take about radar, but system wise, there are so many systems, ATM, AMHs, there are 5 international airport, the 3 of them are regionally international, and 2 are actually declared as a international airport. So we have plenty of system but there are times we understand the ATSEPs are not up to required level to maintain those systems. So as Mr. Muruganandam clearly said that the recruitment process has to be considered not in a bulk wise, so that we can manage a generation gap accordingly. So you know that when a group of people recruited in a bulk level, similarly they leave the organization in such a way, so that so that we are facing such issues nowadays. So this is very much important, the discussion we had, and we gathered a very good tough, so that we can convey those things to our management. Thank you.
Thank you. Sanjeev ji, I would like to hear from you on the same.
Yes, you know, most of the thing Mr. Muruganandam and Priyantha has said. So what I like to add on this is, as you said, the case of the critical navigation and the sighting criteria and many things. So I remember one of the incidents that we did in Nepal, and maybe many of our friends are also listening. Kathmandu Valley is supposed to be one of the difficult airport, for landing as well as in takeoff, because we have mountains all around, and the valley is hardly 15 nautical mile width, and some of the place even the 10 to 12. So in that case, the only means of navigation was the BOR and DME in Nepal. And for many years, it was been said that many agencies came here and they studied the suitability of the ILS. But every time they said the ILS is not feasible for Kathmandu airport. Even few years back, they said the radar will not be feasible because a lot of the plotters will come on the screen. So you can imagine this airport was without radar and without any, the precision approach systems. And then with our colleagues and with the support of many, what we thought that we should do the study much more closely, and then with the help of maybe some of our Japanese friends are also here, with JICA and other assistants, we did the survey. And then finally in the 1997, we installed the radar in the valley, and now it becomes the instrumental for our flight. We have every day more than 500 flights. And without that radar, now our 8 codes are almost paralyzed. They cannot do anything. So if we didn't try that time to install, and if we just think that, there will be the clutters, it is obviously a valley, but we just tried with the tilt angle more than 2 degrees of the radar, and then we can get in the approach path, we can get most of the traffics, and also on the other sides, except on the north. And it became very, very helpful. And in the another study, me and my colleagues, which we were involved, the precision approach, of course, in Kathmandu Valley is a narrow valley. And then we did a lot of time the survey, and I was also involved to have an intensive survey for the possibility of the ILS with the Air Service Australia, and then the New Zealand, Airways New Zealand, and many. Then finally, 2 years back, again with a team of the JICA experts, we had a survey, and then with the intensive survey, we can assure that, the previous reports were saying, even if you can have a localizer or the ILS, that will be the offset by 5 degrees or the 15 degrees, and which is no use in a narrow valley. Then finally, we did an intensive survey, and on that survey, we find it is possible to use a straight line localizer and DME. Of course, the glide slope is also possible, but for very small aircrafts like 319 and below, not for the higher aircrafts. So now The localizers have been installed and taken care by some of our senior colleagues. But in this study where I was also involved, I can share my experience to everyone that we should not give up thinking that it is not possible, just without doing the intensive survey in the air navigation, surveillance, and communications. Wherever I worked, we tried, and these are the things that brings the safety to the aviation. And you can imagine Kathmandu Airport only with the VOR-DME, and now very soon, maybe the project team will make these localizer systems to operate. And you can imagine how much the safety will be enhanced, because all around the world, Nepal is one of the most touristic destinations. And until now, the Kathmandu is the only international airport. Of course, now the 2 more international airports are coming up in Nepal very soon, within a year. So with these pressures, now we can happy even the VOR-DME one day, if they have a problem, we can depend on this localizer DME. That's the thing, Senthilvel. So what I want to share is always we should continue working and sharing the experience and the teamwork. Of course, my colleagues and many more who helped in aviation, and still they are helping. Now, since last year, I moved to the regulatory side after working 27 years on the planning and development. I still like to thank all of them, and the teamwork. Still, I like to emphasize with the teamwork, unachievables can be done. And finally, again, I like to encourage our ATSEPs that, the Michelangelo has said, the greatest danger for most of us is not that we aim too high and miss it, but we always aim too low and we reach it. So we should always aim too high, So don't worry to miss it, but if you aim too low, you will reach it, but that doesn't mean anything. Thank you very much, Mr. Senthilvel.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Muruganandam, sir.
Yes, Senthilvel. Yeah, as you rightly pointed out, the CNS ATM systems are undergoing a paradigm shift because of the changing operational environment. The fundamental basic baseline is that globally, of course, before the COVID-19 situation, there has been a constant increase in the air traffic. And this has put pressure on various states and the ANSPs to accommodate more and more aircraft in the limited airspace, and thereby they are forced to augment the capacity of their airspace as well as the aerodromes. And gone are those days where the CNS systems were standalone systems, whether it is a VOR-DME or an ILS or a radar. Now, the airspace is being integrated to have a harmonized, unified airspace, which can be controlled from a centralized point, thereby necessitating those CNS ATM systems, especially the surveillance and communication systems, to be of highest order for providing the airspace picture, the situational display to the air traffic controllers, and the communication channels in terms of highest degrees of availability and continuity of service, so that their safety performance can be ensured. And as Sanjeev pointed out, the ATCOs are increasingly becoming more and more dependent on the automation systems of radar data processing and flight data processing, and the decision support tools that are incorporated in those systems. So the availability and the continuity of service of these systems is of greater significance for ensuring safety. And when I say this, there is a direct correlation of a responsibility to the ATSEP in order to address the requirements of coverage for both surveillance and communication, to meet the PBCS requirements, and also to have adequate levels of redundancies for catering to events of some of the components failing, as well as the ability to transfer these surveillance inputs to a centralized location through a reliable network of data communication systems. So, as Theo in the beginning pointed out, we are moving into a scenario where we are going to have distributed systems elsewhere, and those system inputs are going to be presented in a centralized environment for the ADCOs. Finally, it is the airlines and the ADCOs who are the primary stakeholders for whatever infrastructure that we are going to provide as ATSEP for augmenting safety, ensuring safety while augmenting the capacity and the efficiency of aviation. So more and more pressure, more and more knowledge in terms of the situational awareness. What exactly is required for an ADCO? How our systems are affecting their performance. This sort of understanding is very, very essential in every ATSEP of present generation. It is not enough if an ATSEP is able to understand the principles of operation and the maintenance aspects of a radar system. He must be more knowledgeable and he must be more aware as to how his system is being used by the user community.
Yes.
That level of competencies need to be developed. That is the most challenging part. Once again, I repeat, that is why when we are able to certify through an unit training or whatever it is about the competency of an ATSEP, this as a competency element in terms of situational awareness and the ability to configure the system to provide the required level of service in an operational environment for the ATCOs and the airlines. That will be the most important competency, which will have the requirements of underlying knowledge and skills in that sub. If we can do that, probably we will be the winner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I would like to ask one more question. In many developed countries, this question is very specifically meaningful to not only Asia Pacific, also for the countries ANSPs which are in the developing stage. In our ATSEPs, we say somebody is brilliant, means he is able to maintain or install certain facilities. But if you see the developed countries, Sassan would agree, his profile you can see, how many committees he is involved. In Europe, how many standard committees they are part of the framing the policies. In India, we are not doing anything. I feel that we are not part of the decision making. Those who are making the policies and rules. What I mean to say, I think this concept is not all in the Asia Pacific, like Eurocontrol or European Union. There you see that IFATSEA itself is playing a major role in making so many documents. For example, fatigue manual of ATSEP, they are able to work out on that. But in our region, that kind of involvement is not there. I feel this kind of lack of involvement also affects the team performance of our ATSEPs in the Asia Pacific region. Probably their moral level may not go certain high level because they are not knowing many things. For example, you take the present condition, take a country like India. We invested a lot of money in the capacity enhancement. CNS ATM automation systems are classic example of capacity enhancement only. We brought so many systems, we restructured so many airspace, so many things. We brought the system, everything together, but ATSEPs are still available in the more remote places now. If you take for CNS automation system, earlier there were no people at Bellary or remote places for the international audience to understand. Now ATSEPs, we have thrown them to further remote places. Only systems are getting integrated. Whereas ATSEPs are leaving the main family and they are going to further scattered. They are going less in number. And you have got a lot of investment in the projects. No revenue now. COVID has made a lot of toll. Obviously, there will be a huge reduction in the human resource. Now, in this level, like this, there are so many aspects which are going to demotivate the ATSEP in a overall, in the country level or even the regional level or maybe the whole world level. I'm thinking the ATSEP's motivation will be going down. In this, but motivation is the essential factor for any team to perform, isn't it? So how much one individual can self-motivate and come forward, how much a team lead can motivate themselves, or how an organization level, like a ANSP level, how these motivations can be maintained. I would like to hear from you.
Thank you. When I said in the initial stage, it is very important for us when we induct young ATSEPs into our organization to adequately give them the overall international picture in terms of various international organizations, including ICAO, Eurocontrol, and the number of states that are making the international civil aviation happening, and how things are being developed in terms of standards, recommended practices, how technology developments are being adopted into the civil aviation arena. This needs to be told adequately. Probably there has to be an emphasis on this. Why? Because unless you give the broader full picture to the ATSEP, if you straight away start teaching him VUR, DME or VHF communication system without telling him the overall picture, probably he will not be able to make a mental frame as to what is the scenario or the organizational overall global scenario into which I can develop as an engineer or contribute towards the overall civil aviation. Number one, that needs to be done. And second thing is that, as I said, it is completely dynamic. Civil aviation requirements as a transport industry is undergoing very fast change in terms of requirements constraining the capacity and efficiency. So we have to be up on our toes all the time. And I would like to tell a few things. India has taken a lead in the Asia Pacific region in capacity building. Definitely we have led in terms of, so probably I would say the number of surveillance sensors that have been integrated together through our Raytheon ATM automation system, probably India did first as compared to the global scenario. As many as 13 to 15 surveillance sensors data were integrated and provided at a centralized place in Chennai. And similarly, it is done in Delhi and Mumbai also, in order to have a centralized airspace management for the provision of air traffic services. It is not that India has taken a lead. Many of our people are part of task forces in aeronautical information management, as well as implementation of ATS interdisciplinary unit, ATS inter-data communication, ATS units, AIDC implementation. We are part of task force, and we are the first nation to implement AMHS, one among the first nations to implement AMHS. However, this sort of exposure probably is limited to those who are in headquarters because of the need that we were not able to have an integrated environment to function. Everything has to be communicated through different means. Now, probably COVID-19 has opened up an opportunity of networking through online modes and wherever may be the resource available. Now that if you see, 40 countries are participating in this webinar, we are able to share our experience and expertise to as many as 200 plus participants. This was adopted as a necessity because of the COVID times. Similarly, we have to now integrate and adopt and tap those resources available in India. Earlier, the people who were able to contribute were concentrated at select places, and they were identification of them was a difficulty. And now we should move by exposing the majority of the ATSEP to those challenging environments where their technical knowledge and expertise can contribute and give them opportunities, which I think our corporate headquarters now is very well aware of, and we can do that. It is not that we will not be able to do that. Yes, a developing scenario as it exists in the Eurocontrol or in the Generation X, Gen X. We do not have such an ecosystem in Asia Pacific region. That I am also aware of that. Probably we are moving towards that. Maybe IFATSEA can play a role in encouraging APAC regional states to be more forthcoming and contributing towards developments. Not that people are not talented. Probably we do not have a framework of investing in research and development adequately as it is being done in SSR or CARETS, whatever it is. So we need to have a system by which we can make more and more ATSEP of this region participate in development works. Probably that can change. And as I said already, the recruitment process needs to be corrected. I think as I shared, even Sri Lanka suffers from similar thing. We need to bring younger and younger people flowing through the organization so that they bring the latest technology to the table. And they are good in learning faster. We cannot have the old people learn new tricks and then apply for development. We need to correct certain things. If we do so, we will be able to contribute more and more to the global scenario. Thank you.
So this, thank you so much, sir. In fact, I would like to tell the participants on informally. Once I have discussed with the regional director Europe. We were thinking of calling regional director Europe to one of the meeting so that he will explain the developments. It is better to listen the first-hand information than what we read through internet or website. I would keep that idea alive. Let me discuss with him. And one more questions I picked from your discussion and with the other panelists. The panelists were mentioning about the knowledge and attitude gap. The knowledge wise, yes, the young people are able to learn very fast. But how much do you feel that attitude wise there is a gap or not? How do you feel? Mr. Muruganandam, whether do you feel the attitude gap you find from the generation? Only knowledge gap is there? I personally feel the senior executives, they are having a good attitude developed over the year. I think somewhere we are missing this transfer of this attitude also, because as you said, young people, they have a lot of knowledge, they can easily pick up things, but attitude doesn't come through institutes or means by teaching some subjects. How do we make sensitized on this attitude thing?
Okay.
Yes,
Probably,
like Mr. Anurag Sharma rightly pointed out, attitude versus commitment. So how do we see that both the generations are having similar commitment and
yeah, it is again the role of the seniors to mentor and groom the individuals to have the right attitude towards work. As you rightly said, we can impart knowledge, we can help ATSEP to develop various skills. However, attitude development cannot happen as fast as development of knowledge and skills. For an individual to possess a right attitude towards work, it is not that he is only responsible for having or displaying the right attitude. His job environment, in terms of technical workplace environment, as well as the operational and administrative environment, has to complement his work in terms of recognition of his services adequately, as well as providing opportunities for the individual ATSEP to grow and hone their knowledge and skills adequately in a free-flowing career growth path. If whenever there is a challenge of this career growth path, then automatically the motivation levels come, because after all, we are all human beings. We cannot avoid comparison between us. So that is why the human resource management in terms of not only induction, but also training, deployment, avoiding conflict of interest, identifying new areas for development in terms of knowledge and skills, as well as provide adequate challenging growth path is a requirement that the organization must be able to fulfill for an individual to have the right attitude towards his job or the organization throughout his career. Sustaining motivation throughout a career is a challenge for every individual. Let us be aware of this. More so when we have a heterogeneous target population of ATSEP with varied learning preferences, varied objectives, and varied priorities over life and profession. It is very, very difficult. We need to optimize and provide an environment of performance where the performance is recognized adequately and people are being helped for them to learn and perform to their adequate and optimum capability. For example, whenever we train in civil aviation training college, as if, for example, take a unit training, thereupon we deploy them in the airports where they encounter maintenance and operation of various CNS systems. Now, at this point of time, it becomes very, very important for the team leader in a particular system or a unit to provide adequate support in terms of handholding the new incumbent who has just come from the training environment to an operational environment where he is going to handle an operational system. Adequate handholding and guidance and also sharing of experience, learning through sharing, this sort of confidence building measures need to be provided adequately for the younger generation people. Once that is done effectively, instead of leaving them to fend for themselves, okay, you are trained in civil aviation training college, now you come and manage the system. If you leave them like that, probably they will be at a loss as to how to proceed further. It will be very difficult for them to overcome the pressures or the fear factor to handle an operational system. At every stage, the team leader has to play a role, whether he is being in an operational unit or heading an airport in a station or being in the corporate headquarters. We must be always closely watching the performance of people and identify those areas which are serving as impediments. I take with open mind that all my engineers who are being recruited are here to learn, possessing the right attitude, and develop a career for themselves. It is up to the organization. Of course, individuals need to play a role in developing themselves. More importantly, the organization has a very, very important role in keeping the motivation of their entire workforce going all the time. Thank you.
Sorry, sir, I could not hear you in between.
Okay. I just wanted to say that, of course, I want to underline this fact. Individuals need to possess a right attitude towards their job performance because their job is the breadwinner for them. Having said that, an organization, if it has to perform effectively and efficiently, it has to also play its role in helping the individuals grow through a definite career path, as well as provide them adequate support in honing their skills and proving to be effective and competent performers in their domain of knowledge and area of work. Organizational processes also to be there to help the individuals grow in a much progressive career path. That is also a requirement for sustaining the attitude and motivation of the ATSEP community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.